The cardiac monitor screamed at 3:47 a.m., room 412. The patient's heart had stopped. But that wasn't what made Dr. Priya Sharma freeze in the doorway. It was what she'd just seen on the chart. A single line buried in the patient's history that should have been caught weeks ago. A line that meant this 34-year-old mother of two had been slowly poisoned for months. And the person responsible was someone everyone in this hospital trusted completely. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how we got to that moment, how a routine admission turned into one of the most disturbing cases this hospital had ever seen, we need to go back 3 weeks. Memorial West Medical Center sits about 40 minutes outside the city, one of those mid-sized suburban hospitals that handles everything from broken arms to emergency C-sections. It's not a glamorous teaching hospital. No cutting-edge research programs, just a building full of people trying to keep their community healthy, running on coffee and the kind of dark humor that only people who've held someone's heart in their hands can really appreciate. Dr. Priya Sharma had been an internist there for 7 years. 39 years old, originally from Mumbai, she'd done her residency at Johns Hopkins before deciding she'd rather know her patients' names than see 100 new faces every day. She was the kind of doctor who actually sat down when she entered a room. The kind who remembered that Mrs. Patterson's grandson just started kindergarten, that Mr. Okonkwo was terrified of needles but tried to hide it. That morning, Priya was covering for a colleague who'd come down with the flu. Not her usual patients, not her usual floor, just filling in gaps, putting out small fires. The kind of shift that should have been forgettable. The admission note was waiting on her tablet when she got to the nurses' station on the 4th floor. New patient, transferred from the ER overnight. The name, Jennifer Holloway, 34 years old. Chief complaint? Fatigue, nausea, and unexplained weight loss. Now those symptoms could mean almost anything. Stress, depression, thyroid problems, early pregnancy, cancer. Priya had learned long ago not to jump to conclusions, but also never to dismiss persistent, unexplained symptoms. The body keeps score, and it usually tells the truth eventually, if you know how to listen. She found Jennifer in room 408, a corner room with a window overlooking the parking lot. And the first thing Priya noticed was how wrong the patient looked compared to her ID photo. The driver's license photo showed a vibrant woman. Round cheeks, bright eyes, the kind of smile that made you want to smile back. The person in the bed looked like she'd aged 15 years. Hollow cheeks, dull skin, hair that had clearly been falling out in patches, now covered with a soft headscarf. Jennifer's husband Marcus sat in the chair beside her, holding her hand. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the exhausted look of someone who'd been sleeping in hospital chairs for too long. He stood immediately when Priya entered, and she noticed how attentive he was, adjusting Jennifer's blanket, explaining her symptoms before Jennifer could speak. "She's been like this for months," Marcus said, his voice thick with worry. "We've seen 4 doctors. Nobody can figure out what's wrong. They keep saying it's in her head, that she's depressed, that she needs to eat more." His jaw tightened. "Does she look depressed to you? She can barely keep food down." Jennifer tried to smile. "He's been so good through all this. I don't know what I'd do without him." Something about that exchange would come back to Priya later. But in that moment, she simply saw a devoted husband and a desperately ill wife. Priya sat down. She always sat down, and began the interview. Jennifer's story was a cascade of misery. It had started about 8 months ago. Fatigue, first the kind that sleep couldn't fix, then nausea, then vomiting, then the weight loss, 43 pounds gone. Her hair started falling out 3 months in. Muscle weakness followed. Some days she couldn't climb the stairs to tuck her daughters into bed. The girls are 6 and 8, Jennifer said, and her eyes filled with tears. They keep asking when Mummy's going to be better. I don't know what to tell them.
Priya examined her thoroughly. Pale conjunctiva suggesting anemia. Mace's lines on her fingernails, horizontal white bands that often indicated systemic illness. Peripheral neuropathy, slight numbness in her hands and feet. Her blood pressure was low. Her reflexes were sluggish. The previous workups had been frustrating in their normalcy. Thyroid, normal. Standard metabolic panel, mostly normal. Cancer markers, negative. CT scan, unremarkable. Every specialist had thrown up their hands. But Priya noticed something in the pattern of labs. The white blood cell count had been gradually trending down over months. Not dramatically, just a slow, steady decline. Easy to miss if you weren't looking at the big picture. I want to run some additional tests, Priya told them. A broader toxicology panel, heavy metals, some specialised blood work. Marcus nodded eagerly. Whatever it takes, we just want answers. The labs would take 24 to 48 hours. Priya moved on with her day, but something nagged at her. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. Just a feeling, the kind that experienced physicians learn not to ignore. But what happened next pushed Jennifer Holloway to the back of her mind. At 2 p.m, a multi-car accident on the highway brought in 7 casualties. Priya was pulled into the chaos, stabilising patients, coordinating care. By the time she got home that night, she'd forgotten all about the mysterious case in room 408. The next morning, she got a page that changed everything. The hospital's chief toxicologist needed to speak with her. Immediately. Dr. Raymond Costa was a wiry man in his 60s, with wild grey eyebrows and the perpetually suspicious expression of someone who'd spent decades finding poison where others saw nothing. He rarely called doctors directly. When he did, it meant something significant. "That patient you admitted," he said without preamble. "Jennifer Holloway, I need you in my office." 20 minutes later, Priya sat across from him, staring at a printout that made her blood run cold. "Arsenic," Costa said flatly. "Significantly elevated. Not a lethal dose all at once. That would have killed her months ago. This is chronic exposure. Someone has been giving this woman small amounts of arsenic over an extended period." Priya's mind raced. Arsenic poisoning. It fit. The hair loss, the nausea, the neuropathy, the weight loss, the Meese lines. All classic signs that had been missed because nobody was looking for poison. Why would they? Jennifer Holloway was a suburban mum, not a character in an Agatha Christie novel. "How is she being exposed?" Priya asked. Costa shrugged. "That's not my department. Could be environmental. Old house with contaminated water, occupational exposure, or," he let the word hang, "or someone was doing this to her intentionally." Now, I need you to understand something. In medical training, doctors learn about poisoning as an academic exercise. They memorize symptoms, treatment protocols, antidotes. But actually, suspecting that someone is slowly murdering your patient, that's different. That's a line that, once crossed, changes how you see everything. Priya stood outside room 408 collecting herself. Through the small window, she could see Marcus sitting in his usual spot, reading a magazine. Jennifer appeared to be sleeping. Such a devoted husband. He'd been by her side through every appointment, every hospitalization. He tracked her medications, managed her supplements, made sure she ate. He mixed her smoothies at home because solid food made her nauseous. He mixed her smoothies. Priya felt the floor tilt beneath her. No, she was jumping to conclusions. She was a doctor, not a detective. There could be a dozen explanations. But her next step was clear. She needed to talk to Jennifer. Alone. That proved surprisingly difficult.
Marcus rarely left his wife's side. When Priya asked him to step out for a private examination, he hesitated. "I know all her symptoms," he said. "I can help explain." "Hospital protocol," Priya said firmly. "I'll come get you when we're done." Something flickered across Marcus's face, gone almost immediately, replaced by his usual concerned smile. But Priya saw it, a flash of something cold. Once they were alone, Priya pulled a chair close to Jennifer's bed. "I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely honest with me, even if the answers seem strange or uncomfortable." Jennifer nodded weakly. "Okay." "Your symptoms started about 8 months ago. Did anything change in your life around that time? New job, new house, new routines?" Jennifer thought. "No, nothing really. Marcus started a new job around then, but that was good. Better hours, more time at home. He started cooking more, taking care of me more. That's when he started making my protein smoothies every morning, said I needed the nutrition." Priya kept her face neutral, but her heart was pounding. "Where do you keep the protein powder?" "Marcus orders it online. Special blend. He says regular stores don't carry it." "Has anyone else ever tasted these smoothies?" Jennifer looked confused. "No. Why would they? Marcus makes them special for me. Adds extra vitamins and things." Priya took a breath. "Jennifer, I need to tell you something, and I need you to stay calm. Your blood tests showed elevated levels of arsenic in your system." The word hung in the air. "Arsenic?" Jennifer repeated. "Like poison?" "Yes, chronic exposure over several months. That's what's been causing your symptoms. The question is how you're being exposed." Jennifer's eyes went wide. Priya watched her patient's face cycle through confusion, denial, and then, worst of all, recognition. The look of someone putting together a puzzle they never wanted to solve. "No," Jennifer whispered. "No, that's not possible. He loves me. He takes care of me." "I'm not accusing anyone of anything," Priya said carefully. "But I need to ask, has Marcus ever been the sole provider of your food or drinks? Things only you consume?" "The smoothies," Jennifer breathed. "Every morning. He watches me drink them. He gets upset if I don't finish them." Her voice cracked. "He says they're the only thing keeping me alive." The irony was devastating. But what came next would haunt Priya for years. The door opened. Marcus walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. His eyes went immediately to his wife's tear-stained face, then to Priya. "What's going on?" His voice was careful. "Jennifer? Honey? What's wrong?" Jennifer couldn't speak. She just stared at him, years of trust shattering behind her eyes. Priya stood. "Mr. Holloway, could I speak with you in the hallway?" "Not until someone tells me why my wife is crying." His voice hardened. "What did you say to her?" "We received some concerning lab results. We need to discuss..." "Lab results?" Marcus's expression shifted. Something predatory crept into his eyes. "Let me guess. You found something that finally explains her illness, and somehow that made her cry." He wasn't stupid. Priya realized with a chill that he was already calculating, already planning. "I'll need to speak with the attending physician," Priya said, reaching for her pager. "And we'll need to discuss next steps for Jennifer's treatment." "Treatment," Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, let's talk about treatment." What happened next took less than 30 seconds, but felt like an hour. Marcus grabbed Jennifer's IV pole, the stand holding her fluids, her medications, her lifeline, and yanked it from the wall. Jennifer screamed. Priya lunged for the emergency call button, but Marcus wasn't trying to hurt anyone. Not yet. He grabbed Jennifer's hand and started pulling. "We're leaving. Now. You're my wife, and I'm taking you home." "Marcus, stop!" Jennifer was too weak to resist. "Please, you're hurting me." Priya hit the code button. In a hospital, that single button triggers a cascade. Security, nursing supervisors, response teams. Within 90 seconds, there would be people flooding this floor. But 90 seconds is an eternity when you're alone with a desperate man who's just watched his entire plan unravel. "You ruined everything." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper, but Priya heard every word. "She was supposed to die at home, peacefully. Everyone would have been so sad. I would have gotten the insurance money, the house, the kids, everything we built together. Everything that's rightfully mine." He was still holding Jennifer's arm. She was crying, trying to pull away, too weak to break free. "Sex. You knew she was dying," Priya said, trying to keep him talking. Security was coming. She just needed to buy time. "You made her sick so you could be the perfect caretaker, the grieving husband." Marcus laughed. It was the worst sound Priya had ever heard. "Perfect caretaker, yes. Months of mixing the powder into her drinks, adjusting the dose when she seemed too strong, taking her to doctors who couldn't figure it out, playing the worried husband. Do you know how exhausting that was?" "Why?" Jennifer's voice was barely audible. "Marcus, why?" He looked at her with something like pity. "Because you were never going to leave me any other way. And I wasn't going to spend another 10 years trapped in this marriage when there were so many other options out there." The door burst open. 2 security officers, followed by the charge nurse, followed by chaos. Marcus released Jennifer and stepped back, his hands raised. The mask slipped back on almost instantly. "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. My wife is very ill, and this doctor upset her. This man has been poisoning his wife with arsenic," Priya said clearly. "We have toxicology confirmation. He just admitted it. She needs to be kept safe." What followed was procedural but critical. Marcus was detained. Police were called. Jennifer's room became a crime scene and a medical bay simultaneously. Her IV was replaced, carefully checked by multiple nurses. Nobody trusted anything Marcus might have touched. But the medical crisis wasn't over, not even close. Here's what people don't realize about arsenic poisoning. Knowing the cause doesn't immediately fix the damage. Jennifer's organs had been under assault for 8 months. Her kidneys were struggling. Her heart showed signs of stress. Her nervous system was damaged. The chelation therapy that would help remove the arsenic from her body was risky for someone in her weakened state. The next 48 hours were a tightrope walk. Jennifer was moved to the ICU. The chelation drugs were started at the lowest possible dose. Her heart rhythm was monitored around the clock. Every vital sign was scrutinized. Every twitch was analyzed. Priya found herself spending far more time on this case than she should have. She wasn't an intensivist. Jennifer was technically someone else's patient now. But she couldn't walk away. On the second night, things went wrong. Jennifer's blood pressure crashed. Her heart rate became erratic. The chelation therapy was pulling arsenic from her tissues, but it was also stressing her already damaged cardiovascular system. Dr. Michael Torres, the critical care attending, was running the code. But it was Priya who noticed the connection first. "Her potassium is spiking," Priya called out. "The chelation, it's affecting her electrolytes faster than we're replacing them." Torres adjusted the protocol on the fly. Potassium binders, calcium gluconate to stabilize her heart. The team worked in synchronized chaos, the kind of controlled pandemonium that separates good ICUs from great ones.
At 3:47 a.m., Jennifer's heart stopped. This was the moment I started with. The flatline, the screaming monitors, Dr. Priya Sharma frozen in the doorway. But what I didn't tell you was what Priya saw in that instant. A detail on the chart that she'd missed before. A single line in Jennifer's history buried in the medication reconciliation. A supplement that Marcus had insisted she take daily. Something he'd ordered online, just like the protein powder. Something no other doctor had thought to investigate. The product was called MetaBoost Complete. It was sold as a weight management supplement, but when Priya had the hospital pharmacy research it, they found something terrifying. The brand had been linked to contamination complaints, heavy metals, arsenic. Marcus hadn't just been poisoning Jennifer's smoothies, he'd been double dosing her. The supplements were a backup plan, a second delivery system. Even if someone had tested her food, they might never have caught the pills. Sex, 0.8. Continue CPR, Torres ordered. Epi's in. Come on, Jennifer. The room was chaos and silence simultaneously. Every person moving with purpose, every second counting. Priya found herself praying, something she hadn't done since medical school. Not to any particular god, just sending desperate hope into the universe that this woman, who had already survived so much, would survive a little longer.
1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes of CPR, of drugs, of shock, of desperate measures, and then a beat, then another, then a rhythm. Jennifer's heart was beating again. Torres caught Priya's eye across the room. That supplement you flagged, we need to add it to her chart. If she'd kept taking it during treatment, we'd have been chasing our tails forever. Priya nodded. One detail, one line on a chart. It had almost been missed entirely. But the crisis wasn't over. Jennifer was alive, but unconscious. The cardiac arrest had starved her brain of oxygen for several minutes. There was no way to know in those early hours whether she'd wake up, whether she'd be herself, whether Marcus's long game had succeeded after all, just in a different way. Her daughters, Maya and Sophie, were being cared for by Jennifer's sister. They didn't understand why Daddy wasn't coming home. They didn't understand why Mummy was in the hospital again. They just knew that something had broken in their family. 3 days passed, then 4, then 5. Priya checked in every morning before her shift and every evening after. She sat with Jennifer's sister, answered questions about the medical situation, tried to offer hope without making promises she couldn't keep. On the 6th day, Jennifer opened her eyes. Where? Jennifer's voice was a croak. Where am I? Priya took her hand. You're in the hospital. You're safe. You've been through a lot, but you're going to be okay. The girls? They're with your sister. They're fine. They can't wait to see you. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I remember. Marcus, he's been arrested. He can't hurt you anymore. The recovery was slow. Months of rehabilitation. Nerve damage that might never fully heal. Kidney function that would need monitoring for years. But Jennifer survived. More than that, she fought. She testified against Marcus at his trial. She sat in that courtroom, still thin, still weak, and told the jury exactly what her husband had done. How he'd systematically poisoned her while playing the role of devoted caretaker. How he'd watched her suffer, adjusted his doses, taken her to doctors knowing they wouldn't find anything. The prosecution presented the evidence, the arsenic in her blood, the contaminated supplements, Marcus's computer search history showing queries about untraceable poisons and arsenic symptoms mimicking illness. His financial records showing a $500,000 life insurance policy he'd taken out on Jennifer 6 months before her symptoms began. He was convicted of attempted murder, sentenced to 25 years. But here's the thing that Priya couldn't stop thinking about in the months that followed. How close Marcus came to getting away with it. If Jennifer had died at home, which she would have, eventually, her death would have been attributed to an unknown wasting disease. Maybe fibromyalgia. Maybe
Chronic fatigue syndrome. Maybe just one of those sad, mysterious cases that doctors shake their heads at and file away. The autopsy might have caught it. Might. But arsenic leaves the body relatively quickly after exposure stops. If Marcus had waited a few weeks after her death to request cremation, if the medical examiner had been overworked, cutting corners, if anyone had believed the grieving husband's request to skip the autopsy, perfect crime. Insurance payout, 2 kids to raise however he wanted. Instead, Jennifer got to walk her daughters to school on the first day of the next academic year. She was thin, and her hands still trembled, and she got tired too easily. But she was alive. Maya held her left hand, Sophie held her right, and Jennifer Holloway walked through those school doors with her children, something she'd never expected to do again. Dr. Priya Sharma received a letter from Jennifer about 6 months after the trial. It included a photo of Jennifer and the girls at a beach, all 3 of them building a sandcastle. Jennifer looked healthier, still too thin, but there was colour in her cheeks, life in her eyes. The letter was 3 pages long, but one paragraph stuck with Priya. You saved my life when you believed something was wrong. Not the medication, not the surgery. You. Because you saw me as a person, not just a set of symptoms. Because you sat down in my room instead of standing by the door. Because you noticed one detail that everyone else had missed. I don't know how to thank you for that. So instead, I'm going to spend the rest of my life being the kind of person who notices details, who asks questions, who doesn't accept easy answers. That's how I'll honour what you did. Priya kept that letter in her desk. On the hard days, and there are so many hard days in medicine, she'd take it out and read it again. The case changed things at Memorial West. The toxicology department developed a new protocol for patients with unexplained chronic illness. Part of the standard workup now includes screening for common environmental toxins. It's not a perfect solution, but it's something. And the case changed Priya too. She'd Always been thorough. Now she was relentless. Every patient with a caring spouse, a devoted family member, an ever-present caretaker, she looked a little closer, asked a few more questions, trusted but verified. Not because she assumed everyone was a murderer, but because she'd learned that monsters don't look like monsters. They look like devoted husbands bringing coffee to their sick wives. They look like concerned family members who never leave the bedside. They look like people you'd want by your side if you were ever ill. The medical system is remarkable, but it's also remarkably easy to exploit. We assume good faith. We assume that families want their loved ones to get better. We assume that the person bringing you soup and smoothies is trying to help you heal. Usually, we're right. But sometimes, the call is coming from inside the house. Jennifer Holloway should have died. Every statistic said so. 8 months of poisoning, multiple organ stress, cardiac arrest. The odds were against her from the moment Marcus mixed that first dose of arsenic into her morning smoothie. But she didn't die, because one doctor, covering an unfamiliar floor on an unfamiliar shift, sat down instead of standing, asked questions instead of checking boxes, noticed a single detail on a chart that everyone else had overlooked. One detail, one line, one life. That's the margin between tragedy and survival sometimes. It's terrifyingly thin.
Stories like these remind us that medicine isn't just about diseases and treatments. It's about seeing people clearly, really seeing them. It's about questioning assumptions, even comfortable ones. It's about remembering that the patient in the bed isn't just a collection of symptoms. They're someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's entire world. If you've worked in healthcare, you know these cases stick with you. They change how you practice, how you think, how you look at the people around you. If you've got your own story, something you witnessed, something that changed you, drop it in the comments. And if you want more stories from behind the hospital curtain, you know what to do. Because sometimes the deadliest secrets are hiding in plain sight. And sometimes one person paying attention is the only thing standing between a patient and a grave. Jennifer Holloway lived. And somewhere out there, right now, there's another patient whose chart holds a secret, waiting for someone to notice.